You know, every single name you see on a map, it tells a story. Seriously, it's like a little breadcrumb leading you back through time, through language, and culture. Today, we're going to follow that trail right across South Carolina and uncover some of the incredible stories hidden in plain sight.
I mean, we're talking about places with names like 96, Rumgully, or the Devil's Elbow. These aren't just random words on a sign. They're echoes of legends, maybe a few inside jokes, and some really dramatic events. So the question is, where in the world did they come from?
Well, luckily for us, we have a guide for this journey. It's a journal called Names in South Carolina. It was started way back in 1954 with one crucial mission: to capture all these oral histories and forgotten stories before they just vanished. Using this journal, we can start to peel back the layers of the map.
And the very first layer? It's just sound. Seriously, how a name is actually pronounced is often the biggest clue to its real story. It can tell you who settled an area, what language they brought with them, and how that sound has managed to survive for generations.
Okay, so our first example is a classic. It's a little test for anyone visiting the Low Country. The name, Beaufort. Seems pretty straightforward, right? But how you say it can instantly tell everyone if you're a local or not.
So, go on, how would you pronounce it? Is it Beaufort? Your answer immediately lets people know if you're a local or if you're from off, as they might say.
If you're in South Carolina, it's Beaufort, but head up to North Carolina and they have their own Beaufort, which they pronounce Beaufort. It's the exact same spelling, but that pronunciation, it's a huge point of local pride. It's the perfect example of how sound itself can basically draw a line on the map.
Now, moving beyond just how things sound, these place names are basically linguistic fossils. They preserve the languages of everyone who's ever called this land home, from Native American tribes all the way to European settlers. And as you can imagine, sometimes the original meaning got a little lost in translation.
And this shows a really fascinating difference in philosophy. Native American names were often just beautiful descriptions of the land itself. You have Kiowa, meaning place of the mulberries, or Coosawhatchee, river of the Coosawa people. The names describe the world around them. In contrast, when European settlers arrived, they often named places after themselves or their old homes, basically stamping their own identity and ownership right onto the landscape.
All right, let's try another one. This time, we're on the streets of Charleston. This name carries a whole lot of French Huguenot history, and it is a total pronunciation trap for tourists.
So, what do you think? Huger Street? How do you say it? It's another one of those classic local shibboleths.
The correct way to say it is YOO-gee. It's a classic French Huguenot name, and knowing how to say it is kind of like a little nod to understanding that deep French influence on Charleston's history and its culture. It's history that you can literally hear.
But hey, not every name comes from a specific language or some stuffy official record. Some of the absolute best, most memorable names, they come from something way more powerful: a great story. This is where history starts to blur into folklore.
Take the town of 96, for instance. The legend behind it is pure Hollywood drama. A Cherokee woman, Katichi, supposedly rides 96 miles through the wilderness to warn her English lover that an attack is coming. It's such a fantastic story that it's completely overshadowed the much more likely, and let's be honest, way more boring, historical reason for the name. Sometimes a great story just wins.
And then you get the complete opposite. The story behind Rumgully isn't epic at all, not even close. The story goes that a traveler just fell off his horse while crossing a stream, probably after enjoying his flask a little too much. No star-crossed lovers, no heroic ride, just one clumsy moment immortalized on a map forever.
But some legends are a whole lot darker. This next one, right from the pages of the journal, comes from Lee County during the Revolutionary War. It's about a group of local women who were hiding out from British troops when they were suddenly discovered.
So, a British officer was peering into their hiding spot under a bridge, and one of the American men hiding with them, a Mr. McCoy, didn't even hesitate. The journal records, and I'm quoting here, that he was inspired by the sword. He reached in and cut off the British officer's head.
So, in the chaos that followed, the women managed to get away, and the location became known by a shockingly blunt name that celebrated what they did: Scapoose Swamp. Yeah, today it's been shortened and softened a bit to Scapoose Swamp, but that violent story is still right there, just under the surface.
Okay, so from the super dramatic to the much more domestic. Not every name comes from some wild legend. A whole lot of places are just named for the people who lived there or who owned the land. In that sense, the map kind of becomes this giant phone book of the past. A really common pattern you see is early European settlers naming their new plantations after their old homes. So you get Lichfield and Windsor from England, Caledonia from Scotland, and even Tivoli from Italy. It was a very clear way of trying to recreate a little piece of their old world right there in the new one.
And sometimes this personal touch was done on a much grander scale. When the capital city, Columbia, was first planned, its streets were systematically named to honor heroes from the Revolutionary War: Sumter, Marion, Pickens. The city grid itself was designed to be a living monument to national history.
So after looking at all this, pronunciation, language, legends, people, what's the big takeaway? Well, it's that these names aren't just static labels on a map. They're alive. They're living history, constantly telling us stories about who we were and how we saw the world.
At the end of the day, a map isn't just for getting around. It's a living, breathing, historical document. Every single name is a record of language changing over time, of conflicts won and lost, and of communities being built one story at a time.
And that really brings us to the final question, because these same layers of history, they exist everywhere, not just in South Carolina. So the next time you drive down a street or cross a little creek, ask yourself, what stories are hidden in the names right where you live?